Okay, I'm going to make a start. So I want to first of all say good morning to everyone. But not only that, so I guess a couple more things I can say. So first of all is a Happy New Year to all of you. I wish you all the best. In fact, today is the day when I can even say Happy Valentine's Day. In the Western calendar, February 14 is traditionally the day where it gives you the perfect excuse to do something silly. So wish you a good day ahead. Looks like it's going to be a good day ahead. If you had looked at the calendar carefully, I did mention before we broke up for the holiday that actually today is going to be a joint session between the two because there are so many holidays. We don't have enough Saturdays for the T1 people. So is anyone here from T1? Okay, some of you. But in any case, this is being recorded, first of all, and I will not take attendance in case the T1 people, for any reason, cannot attend, okay? But it is to your benefit. I think my objective for this tutorial and maybe also the next one is to share with you a bit more about option pricing. So it is not sort of supplementary to what you have learned in lecture. It's more like it's complementary. I want to cover the things that you already know, but maybe from a rather different angle, okay? Very simple question, okay? So if we go to optionprice.com, now you've seen this 100 times, and here is an option where you are pricing something at the moment, which is $100, and the strike is 100, and it has 30 calendar days to expiry. The other things are not really so interesting, except the volatility, okay, which I keep talking about. So you see that over there, the prices are $3.02 for the call, right? And $2.69 for the put option. Now, I think when I was a student, to be honest with you, when I first started learning about options, first of all, I had to learn what it is, okay? And then we learned about how to price them. And we learned the theoretical foundation. We learned Black-Scholes. And even before that, we learned the binomial, okay? But to be honest with you, I never really truly understood just what are you paying for? That's $3.02. If somebody was to ask you in a job interview, what do you understand about options? And you, I know what is an option. It's a right and not an obligation to buy or sell something. And there's a price to it, right? And then maybe you are even able to quote the formula for the price. But in the end, what have you paid for? What is that $3 actually for? So in this tutorial and maybe the next one, it is my objective to try to share with you just what have you paid for, okay? And I think you will find that quite interesting. So like I said, this is not in addition to what you've already learned. This is complementary, but I will come to it from a slightly different angle, okay? But before we do that, I thought I would share a couple of pieces of news for you. This one is not actually related to trading, but I just thought it's interesting to share with you. Do you guys know about the A380? That's huge. Has anyone ever been on an A380 aircraft? No? if you fly to Singapore, for example, with Singapore Airlines, probably you get on an A380. If you fly to like Dubai, there's a very high chance you will be getting an A380. Okay, nothing to do with trading, by the way. Just to share with you. Now the A380 is a huge aircraft, and it can take a maximum of 800 people. And I just saw this headline and I thought it's interesting. Good morning, Happy New Year. I thought it's interesting just to share with you. Okay, one day, who knows, you might end up working for an airline, or you might end up working in the aviation industry. Now the A380 is right now is the biggest aircraft in the world. They call it the super. You've taken it, yeah. To where? Ah, you see, when during the Chinese New Year, 2 months ago, 14 months ago. Ah, you were there for holidays? Wow. Did you like it? No, did you like Dubai? Yeah. I tell you, every time I get into, I've only been in one of these maybe 3 or 4 times, and every time I get into it, I worry that it's not going to fly because it's huge. Uh, yeah, well, I keep thinking maybe it needs 8 engines instead of 4. Just to give you an idea, if you compare now, the jumbo is already big enough, the 747, but the jumbo looks like a kid next to the A380, which is this one. Okay. Now, the funny thing is, so there's a headline here: threat to future of A380 as Emirates, that is UAE, United Arab Emirates, set to cut order. So what are they doing? Okay, there's a sub-headline: Super Jumbo's plight. Plight means difficulties. Underline shift towards smaller, more fuel-efficient aircraft. So essentially, airlines are basically going or gravitating towards smaller aircraft instead of. You see, the trouble with one of these is if you schedule one of these to fly, and it can take 800 people, you better make sure you get 800 people. If you only get like 500, your flight will make a loss, okay? So, and that's what they're saying here. Now, Emirates is famous for being a big spender, and but they're discussing cutting the 53 it still has on order to around 20. So they're gonna cancel the other 38, basically 33. That is a substantial reduction, and this is a trend. This is a trend in the airline. Now, you know why I mention this? Because so I know a little bit about aviation, and I'm quite interested in that. Cathay Pacific, you know, the Hong Kong airline. You know how many A380 they have? How many of these Big Macs they have? 0. They never ordered even one because they could see that this was actually high maintenance and it's poor sort of value proposition. And I think it turns out they're right. They haven't got a single. In fact, you know what? With Cathay Pacific, now they don't even have jumbos. They sold all their jumbo jets, or the jumbo jets are not flying anymore. So they don't have jumbos and they don't have A380. Anyway, just for your interest, okay? Is it? Okay, I'm glad you say so. Now, I'll show you something else which is interesting. Do you remember now? And this is related to trading, okay? Fairly earlier on in the term, I mentioned to you there was this wild story of so if you look through your notes, you would remember I shared with you this story about a bunch of people building an optic fiber cable, probably no bigger than or no thicker than this. Okay, they try to build an optic fiber cable from New York to Chicago, and the reason for that, and this can really only happens in the U.S. because, like I said before, in the United States, a lot of the physical underlying trading is done in New York, but the derivative market, especially the futures market and the options market, are in Chicago. So there is some potential room to arbitrage between prices if you are fast enough. And there was already a cable, if you call that the original cable, which would do a round trip, send a signal from New York to Chicago in 14.5 milliseconds. 14.5 milliseconds is 14.5 over 1,000 of a second. Just to give you an idea, even blinking an eye will take around 500 milliseconds. Okay. And do you remember I told you about this story? Yeah, at the beginning, and then some guy came along, and now this was already some years ago, and built a faster one called Spread Networks, and it reduced it from 14.5 to 13.1. And then some other guy came along and reduced it to 9, and now the fastest is 8. These are all real, it's not bullshit, okay? People really did this, but this is using, the way I understand it, TradeWorks is using what's called microwave technology, so they really can get a straight line. You mean the former Vice Chancellor of CUHK? It is based on that technology, yes. Yes, it is. Yeah. You could say so, yeah. Did I tell you the story about the internet cable? Did I tell you about that? Good morning. You know, but now there are, all this we are connected, but in the end, you have to understand that the reason we have internet and the reason we are connected is that there are still, there are satellites, but there are actual physical cables under the sea, which is transmitting signals. And I think you are thinking of Gao Kun, right? Yeah, so he was the father of optic fiber technology, and so around 25 years ago, the first ever internet cable that comes into Hong Kong, the first one, okay, was a project of his. And the first cable actually connected Chinese University with NASA in the United States. Okay, so that's how it all began in Hong Kong. Okay, thanks to him. Yeah. But anyway, now, so here is our Spread Network, and now, as you know, I've recommended to you a very interesting book. Yeah, The Flash Boys. And this is a book written by a guy called Michael Lewis, and he's a wonderful writer. Now, maybe you don't want to read it now because you guys are very busy, but if in the future you have time, I would strongly recommend this to you. If it takes a book to explain high frequency trading, so you can see that I probably can't explain to you in 10 minutes, but the actual opening pages of the book in chapter 1, okay, let me just read that to you now. This is chapter 1. This is how he opens the book. So by the summer of 2009, the line, what line? The line had a life of its own, and 2,000 men were digging and boring the strange home it needed to survive. 205 crew of 8 men each, plus assorted advisors and inspectors, were now rising early to figure out how to blast a hole through some innocent mountain or tunnel under some riverbed, or dig a trench beside a country road that lacked a roadside, all without ever answering the obvious question, why? So this is when he was describing they were building the spread network cable. The line was just a 1.5 inch wide black plastic tube designed to shelter 400 hair-thin strands of glass, but it already had the feeling of a living creature, a subterranean reptile, something that lives underground, with its peculiar needs and wants, okay? The workers were told only what they needed to know, so they tunneled in small groups apart from each other with only a local sense of where the line was coming from, okay? Now, so when I read this stuff, I looked into it and I was thinking, is this for real? And it was for real, okay? And I thought this would be fantastic material for a movie. And that is exactly what they have done, okay? And I want to just show you, this is only like 2 minutes long. They have made a movie about this story, and it's called The Hummingbird Project. It's coming out in cinemas, I think in March, but I'll just show you a little trailer here, okay? You can go and watch it. What? All right, not this.
Whatever's in the way you're going to dig through, it's going to be a totally straight line. Straight. Can I ask what the purpose of that line is? Our purpose is to get the stock market quotes in like 16 milliseconds, which is 1 millisecond faster than everybody else right now.
Okay. Then what happens?
Roughly $500 million a year. Manage good avatars uses human beings like disposable assets.
I can make your life fantastic.
You want to buy a 12-inch strip off of our property?
Under your property.
It looks like they're building a fiber line between tax and the New York Stock Exchange.
I know, Jen. I am looking at it. We're gonna do this in less.
I already told you we can't.
Oh yes, we can.
You think she's trying to build her own line?
I just made $500 million in 5 seconds.
We can't let her beat us. I'm doing everything I can. Tell me your dream, buddy. Country home on a hill, small road, hummingbirds. All right, say it again. Country home on a hill, small road, hummingbirds. I know you can do it. Okay.
Somebody reach our network.
Champion!
Zaleski.
Mr. Zaleski, stop.
You betray me. I have to pay.
Why is she putting up cell towers? They're trying to screw us.
I'm gonna tear you down.
Hey, Sal! I'm going into my meeting right now, but I'll call you in 2 or 3 hours. Could you send all the paperwork over to my office? I'd love to have this by the end of the day. Just think of it as David walking onto the floor of the stock exchange, taking out the biggest slingshot ever, and bringing Goliath down to his knees. We're David. Yeah, we're David.
Anyway, oops. All right, that's just for your interest, okay? Since you just came back from holidays, I thought we'll just start nice and easy. Ah, right. Yeah, I thought I recognized his face. Yeah. Thank you. All right, now let's get back just to more serious things, okay? So we only have a couple of lectures left. So today we are here, okay? And we're going to meet tomorrow with Xin Ming when he's going to talk about the volatility index. And then on the 22nd is when you guys will do your wonderful presentation that we are now looking forward to. I would need you to hand in your presentations. I'm going to create a file in Blackboard, okay? The reason is there are many, so I need to make sure that they are properly uploaded and working and compatible, okay? So can you please load them up to Blackboard? I will create a folder for you to do so, okay? Would that be a report? No, you just upload your PPT. Yeah. Well, the specification, we loaded that to Blackboard too. So you just follow those instructions that are in there. I don't think so. No. Assignment. This one. Haven't you all read this? Yeah, so you just need to do what is asked here. Okay? Sorry, there is a report. My apologies. Okay? Just follow the, because I get mixed up with another, I'm getting mixed up with capital markets where there is not a report. Okay? Okay? So please load that up to okay, you just have to follow these instructions here. Okay. In English? Have you started writing it? I can ask Xin Ming. So let me come back to you on that. Okay. Now, what I want to do today is to pick up from where we left off last time regarding some of the Greeks that you see in option trading. And as you recall, we spoke about delta going from 0 to 1. So just as a recap, we talked about delta before the New Year holiday, and we mentioned that it can go from 0 to 1. And when an option is at the money, delta would be approximately 0.5. It is really, if you think about it, is another way of saying it's kind of like the slope of the line. Excuse me. And so if it goes from 0, the delta here of 0 to delta here of 1, so at some point it has to pass through the 0.5, okay? And it is sometimes called 50 delta. So traders talk like that. They talk about 25 delta or 75 delta. So what they mean by that is that the option has a delta of approximately 0.25, okay? Delta changes very, very fast when it's at the money. And I demonstrated to you last time. If you think about it, so if you have a strike of 100 and then your spot price moves to 99 or 101, you will get a very noticeable change in your delta, and I can demonstrate that to you very quickly. So the delta now is 0.533. If you go from 100 to 101, the delta will change to 0.58 or 0.59. And likewise, if you go from 100 to 99, your delta will change noticeably, okay? But if you price, if your underlying is at, let's say, 70, okay? So now for your call, in fact, it's not really meaningful because everything is zeroed out. Let me try and increase the tenor. Okay, so now if you have a 1-year option at the money, your delta is 0.61. And if you change your price to 99, it is 0.957, okay? But if your underlying price was 70 and or let's say 50, okay, so now your delta is 0.006. And then if you change from 50 to 51, it doesn't move at all, or not much, okay? Yes. Yeah. Well, it is possible, and don't take my diagrams too seriously, especially when I'm drawing it like this. Actually, it should be like, all right. If you want to do it properly, I should draw this first, okay? The payoff. The proper word, if you are mathematically inclined, is asymptotic. That means the curve actually will start to converge with the straight line the further out you go. What do you mean? Yeah. Why? Which slope is not 1? No. 1 just means when the price goes up, and then when the stock price goes up, the option price goes up as well, okay? And then this is a measure, okay? When it's 1, it just means it's 45 degrees, okay? Yeah, 45 degrees, okay? No, not 90, okay? 90 is infinity. But I get what you're saying. In fact, if you have an option and it is 150 spot price, even that's not high enough, 200 then. You can see the delta is now very, very close to 1, okay? So the delta, and then it doesn't change. The delta doesn't change when the price is changing. And that is my point to you. Okay, my point. What is my point? What am I trying to say? Delta doesn't change a lot, except when it's near the money. And I can show you some interactive. I can use a tool to try and demonstrate it, and I think we did do this. So this is how the delta of a call option will evolve when you go from, let's just take a strike of 100. Okay, so you can see, like I said, a lot of the changes are really happening around this area. And when the option is very, very deep in the money, delta doesn't change much. It just stays close to 1. Or when an option is very, very deep out of the money, it also doesn't change much either. It just stays close to 0. And then it's actually when it's near the money, so to speak, near the money. When I say near, I'm really thinking of plus or minus 10%. But you can see that things only start getting interesting when it's plus or minus 20%. Can you see that? The rest of it, you practically can just ignore it. Okay? Are you with me there? Everyone is okay? Yeah? And not only that. So here, the really cool thing is you can start playing around with, for example, the time to maturity. So when the time to maturity is longer, this curve will change shape. Okay? So when time to maturity is very, very short, I don't know what the shortest is. I think it's like 1 week. You can see that it basically just does a, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's almost like a step function. Okay. That is the mathematical label. But whereas when there is more time, the way the delta behaves is quite different. Okay, so a trader has to be conscious of how the different Greeks actually are evolving over time. And you know what? So just holding the time constant, when the volatility changes, that also has an impact. Okay, and likewise the other things, but the other things, the impact is not as great. Okay, but you can see it. And there is a reason for all of these. Okay, I'm not going to change the strike. It's just confuse people. Okay. All right, so this is where we left off last time. And then I want to pick up. Yeah, now the fourth bullet point. The third bullet point changes fastest when at the money. And then the fourth bullet point changes faster for short maturity is exactly what I was saying just now. Okay, so when the time to maturity decreases, suddenly you see very, very rapid change when it's near the money, and not much else happens elsewhere. There is a reason for that too. The reason is, so let's say you have this call option and it's 3 months to maturity. Okay? Now you imagine if nothing happens to the market and it's now only 3 weeks away. Okay? What would your payoff look like? It looks like this. It's very hard to draw these. Okay, so what that means is that for most of the time, delta doesn't really change until you get to around here. Okay, So this is just as, let's say it's 3 weeks. Whereas if it was 3 months, then your delta will start changing a lot earlier, from maybe this point onwards. Now, there's not a single formula on this page. I'm not giving you any mathematical representation. I'm just telling this to you like it's intuition, isn't it? Yeah. So, in fact, the only numbers there are 3 and 3. Okay. So you don't need to be a genius, but you need to think about these things, and then figure out why do they look like that. And of course, exactly the reason you get from the black line to the blue line is because of time decay or time value, like air in a balloon, and then suddenly the air basically is leaking out. Okay. Now I want to talk a little bit about gamma. Now, as you know, gamma, which is often represented like this, it is sometimes written like this in some textbooks, is the second derivative. Let's just take the call option, okay? So it's the second derivative of the price change, and gamma, you can understand that in a number of ways, okay? The first way to understand it is what I just told you. Okay, I'm going to write it like this. So gamma, okay, is the second derivative with respect to price. So it is actually, in the end, it is a change of delta. It is the change of delta with regard to price, because delta is actually the price, the option price with respect to the spot price. So you just differentiate one more time. Now that's the first way to understand it, okay? The second way to understand it is to apply a word called convexity, which I think you have heard of many times. You could also think of it in terms of another word, which is easier to understand, what I call curvature. Curvature is how curved something is. So something like this has more curvature than something like this. It's just more curvy, isn't it? The degree of curviness, or yeah, more C-U-R, more curvy, okay? So the more curvy something is, the higher will be the convexity, and the higher, or the curvature, and therefore the higher the gamma, okay? Now here is when things can get interesting. So you look at the black line. If you look at the black line, which is the way the price will change for an option which has 3 months to run, and then the blue line, which is the price an option can change when it only has 3 weeks to run, you can see that the delta of the 3-month option will start changing, and the changes are a little bit more steady, whereas the blue one, it doesn't do much. So that means the delta of if you compare the black delta with the blue delta, what you're going to find is that the blue delta doesn't change a lot until you get to closer to the money. And you can see that here if you switch to the gamma. So I'm now going to switch to the call gamma. Okay. Now, actually, that line is supposed to join. The reason it's not joining, it looks like it's cut off, is that it's gone all the way up to infinity. But it should normally look like this. Okay. Now, this is the gamma of a call option with regard to the stock price. Now, before you start freaking out and say, "Oh my God, what's going on?" Let me slowly explain to you what's happening here. So first of all, what is the x-axis? X-axis is just the stock price, okay? The underlying stock price. What is this graph showing? This graph is showing how the gamma of an option changes when the underlying price is changing. Is everyone okay with that? Yeah? So this is the gamma. This is showing me how the gamma of an option looks like when the stock price is traveling up and down and up and down and up and down. Okay, that's what that is. Now, if you look at this pattern, what it is telling you is that gamma is highest when it's near the money or at the money. So there's a peak here, and then here it doesn't do much, and here it doesn't do much. Okay, now I already told you that there are two ways to interpret gamma. So the first way is the rate of change of delta, and the second way to interpret that is just how curvy it is, or the convexity. Okay, you can see that if you look at this diagram, that this shape, the fact that it looks like a mountain, is actually consistent with the way it is slowly rising. Reason number one, out here or here, I have already told you, delta doesn't do a lot. Delta doesn't change a lot. If delta doesn't change a lot, it must mean that gamma is very, very small, because gamma is measuring the rate of change. So a small value here is basically saying to you that delta is not really changing. Are you with me? Yeah? Everyone is okay? Now, if you want to use the second interpretation about the curvature, that is also good. So there is not much curvature over here. There is not much, it's practically a straight line. That's why I say asymptotic, okay? It is approaching a straight line here and approaching a straight line over here. So the maximum convexity or curvature or curviness, if there is such a word, is happening around this area. This is when delta really is changing, in other words, okay? And if you want to know where delta is changing, just look for gamma, okay? So delta must be changing a lot around this area here. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So this is going like one level. Yes, you can. This is going like one level lower, okay, by looking directly at gamma. Okay? Is everyone okay with that? And then the second point, it is higher for shorter maturity. Okay? So let's say I now compare. So I now look at a lot of scribbles, but you can rub it off so easily. I now look at this point and this point here, and I ask myself, well, what is the gamma of an option at this point in time, which is at the money 3 months compared to this point, which is at the money, but 3 weeks. Which one do you think has a higher gamma? 3 weeks. Why? It's more curvature, right? In other words, it's changing very, very fast. Okay. If you want to make it really, really extreme, I'll tell you one more thing. So here's a payoff, and let's say you are just 2 hours before maturity. So your payoff I can't draw these things. Your payoff would practically look like I have to hold my breath when I draw these lines. That's how hard it is. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Now, when you are like only 2 hours before maturity, if you are right here, imagine the strike is 100. And the spot price is flipping from 99.75 to 125. Well, actually, I can show you. So days until expiration, I'm going to put that as, I can't put that as 0. I think it'll blow up. 0.001. Okay, so very, very short time. And I'm going to put the underlying price at 99. So this option, or even 99.75. Okay, now you're going to see some very weird things happening. So I now have an option which maybe only have a few minutes to expiry. The strike is 100, and I'm 25 cents out of the money. So watch what happens when I price. Look at the delta. Okay. So delta is 0, and theoretical price is also 0. Now, what if the price jumps by 50 cents, which is perfectly possible, okay? So when you do that, suddenly, delta has gone from 0 to 1 in no time at all. And this would explain why when you are close to maturity, why it is practically, it's called a step function, okay? Why it is like this, it's almost binary. And it also explains why gamma, in fact, is gone through the roof, okay? So gamma is infinite, and it is infinite because the rate of change from 0 to 1 is infinite. Are you with me there? So all these things are very intuitive. They're not really mathematical, although there is a mathematical background behind it, of course. Have you heard of the pin risk? Pin risk. You know what pin risk is? Okay, now pin risk is something that confronts a trader at precisely a moment like this. When you are, let's say you sold an option and the price is fluctuating between 99.75 and 125. So suddenly your option delta will go from 0 to 1 and back to 0 and back to 1. There is no way you can hedge it. When it is very, very close to maturity and is very, very close to the money, you can't hedge it. I think you basically just have to take a view. And that is known as pin risk, because it's practically impossible to hedge. Okay? So that is related to the managing an option which is very, very close to or practically at the money, let's just say at the money, very, very close to maturity, okay, is that you can't really hedge it because the delta will switch from 1 to 0 back to 1 to 0. It's almost binary, and it's binary because of this. Okay? Now, if you're all right with that, so here I already talked about, okay, if you are long delta, what does it mean if you're long delta? And I think we already talked about this. So what is it when you are? What does it mean if you are long delta? This is just trader talk. Happy New Year. Yeah. That is when you are delta neutral. Okay. If your boss comes to you, if you are an option trader, your boss comes to you and says to you, Ziham, are you what is your delta position? Are you long delta, short delta, or delta neutral? Okay. So already your boss has given you a multiple choice, okay? But long delta, and if your answer is, okay, boss, I'm long delta, that means if the market goes up, you're happy. Okay? That's when you are long. That's it. Okay? If you tell your boss, I'm long delta, it means you are looking for the market to go up. Now, you can be long delta. Good question. Now, you look at this. So, you got a call, you got a put, right? You can be long, you can be short. You can see that when you ask me more questions, then I'll tell you more because it then takes us to different areas. Now, if you are long a call option, and the market goes up, are you happy about that? If it's unhedged, okay, if you just have that option, are you happy? You are happy, all right? So if you are long a call, you must be long delta. Now, I just happen to know, as a matter of practice, you can fill out all these other boxes, but I can actually explain to you why, okay? First of all, if you are long a put and the market goes up, are you happy? No, you're not. Actually, if the market goes down, you are happy. Correct? So if you are happy when the market goes down, technically you say that you are short delta. Okay? Now, when you have short positions, if you are short a call and the market goes up, are you happy? Yeah? No? Maybe? You're not happy. Market goes up, you're not happy. That means market goes down, you are happy. So you must be short delta. It really is that simple. Okay? So that's what it means to be long delta. So here you are long delta here, and you're long. And we can do the put as well. So you are short a put. You are short a put, and market goes down. Are you happy? No, you're miserable. But the market goes up. That's what you want to see. So you must be long delta. Everyone is okay with that? Yeah? So quite often, especially if you are in a hedge fund or you're running an option portfolio, you will have some stocks stock 1, stock 2, stock 3, stock 4, and you might have you are long a call in option 1, and you are long a put in option in stock 2. You might be short a put in stock 3, and so on. So when you round them all up and you just calculate one big number for the delta for your entire portfolio, quite often you have no idea. You have no idea what that number would look like. It could be positive, it could be negative. And if that number was positive, you would say that you are long delta. And if it was negative, you will say that you are short delta. Okay? Now, actually the same principles will apply to gamma. But gamma is simple. Gamma is a lot simpler, okay? If you are long an option, you will be long gamma. But if you are short an option, it doesn't matter whether it's call or put, okay? You will be short gamma. And to understand what that means, which I guess would take me to share with you the third dimension of convexity. It's easy to understand. I want to share with you one more concept called gamma revenue. Okay, now, like I said earlier, and I will come back to this, but please listen to this part carefully, okay? Because in the end, it is, I think, in the heart. It is in the heart of option trading, okay? Now, option trading is all about having an option and then hedging it with some kind of underlying shares. And we learned that, and you're going to hear it again in other courses. And in real life, this is often how option traders are trading. If you are long a call, your call price can change because of a number of things. Well, if the underlying is changing, of course your call price will change. Interest rates, time, volatility, all of these things, okay? You are aware of that, right? So when the underlying price is changing, you know, it's a delta exposure. And when the interest rate changes, is basically rho, okay? In fact, here is delta and gamma. And when the time changes, it is theta. And when volatility changes, it is vega. So now I've listed all the crazy members of the Greek family right in front of you, okay? Now, the way option traders are managing a portfolio of options is they try their best to get rid of this. They don't want to have this. And you might wonder, yeah, well, why not? This is often called, and you have heard it before, okay? It's called a directional exposure. Directional because depending on whether the market is going up or down, you can make or lose money. They don't want to do that. If you want to be a directional trader, you just go over to the equity desk and you start trading stocks. That's actually a lot easier and a lot less expensive, okay? So option traders, they don't like the delta position, which, by the way, brings us back to our discussions on trading CBs, if you remember. You remember that from Rose K? And I said to you that why is it that when companies are trying to sell CBs, they have to look after the hedge funds? Number one, because hedge funds are big buyers of CBs, okay? Number two, the way hedge funds trade CBs are quite different. They don't want that directional exposure. They are trading these other things, okay? So that is related now to this topic. So now I think you have a better understanding. So they don't want to have this, okay? And now, so what are you doing when you are hedging an option is that I want to magnify this, okay? So if you are long a call option, so you long a call, and then as the underlying is moving up, you are making money. I want to use the blue line. So let's imagine you are long a call, and you have delta hedged that by shorting some stocks. Now this also you have seen in the lecture notes, okay? So as the market goes up, you are going to make money. So let's say you started from this point, and now the market is here, okay? So this is your profit. Let's call it X. But you will have a loss because you shorted some stocks, and your loss will actually be this part. And I'll call that Y. Is everyone okay with that? The reason this is happening is that you are long an option, and the payoff, yeah, it is. The payoff is a curve, so it's rising. So you are making money faster. You are making X amount of dollars while you are losing Y amount in your hedge. So you actually have a gap, which is X minus Y. Can you see that? Now, I want you guys to be comfortable. Like I said, again, there are no diagrams. I mean, no formulas here. There are not even numbers. Okay, I've just drawn you a graph and I have explained to you what's going on. Is everyone okay with that? If you're not, let me know. Okay. Well, I would say two things. Number one, the principles are the same, first of all. Number two, don't worry about the put for now, okay? Try to understand this to start with, okay? Now, something similar is happening on the other side. So if the market is going down, so if the market is going up, then you make money here, but you lose money here. But you are making more than what you lose. If the market is going down, you're going to be losing money on your call, and you're going to be making money on your hedge. But you know what? The way you are losing money at a slower rate. Again, because of the curve. Okay? So you will make more money than what you lose. Now, and the gap is here. Let's say let's say the stock price is now here. Okay? So this I have to draw the triangles the other way. This is what you lose. I call this A. But because you are short, I'll use the blue color. This is the money that you're going to make on your hedge. Okay, so again, you are going to be making money because you have made B and you have lost A. And B minus A is actually this gap here. So it looks like if you are long a call option and you are short some stocks to protect it, no matter where the market is going up, you make this gap here. And when markets are going down, you're going to make this gap here. It's a wonderful position to be in. You know why? It's very, very simple. Because your option payoff is curvy, but your hedge is linear. You're always going to get that. And this gap here, ladies and gentlemen, there is a name for it. It's called gamma revenue. Okay? You go to any option trader, you talk to them about gamma revenue, they will understand what you are talking about. Okay? Now, there's a cost. You know, he's always one step ahead of me. He's always thinking, what is the next concept? And he's right. There is a cost to it. Now, first of all, do you all understand what I've said to you just now? This idea of gamma revenue. You know why this appears? When you are hedging options, you take one step back, you ask yourself, what are you doing? You are hedging a nonlinear payoff with a linear instrument. Of course, you are going to get this difference. Okay, you are hedging a nonlinear payoff with a linear instrument. And in fact, if you look carefully at the Black-Scholes formula, and you look at all the partial differential equations, they are a simple reflection of that. Okay, and so everyone knows that. The buyer knows it, the seller knows it. You are hedging a nonlinear payoff with a linear instrument, and the person who is short the option, okay, whether it's call or put, will always be at a disadvantage. And the person who is long the call or put will always be at an advantage. And they both know it. They know it, which is why, okay, the seller or the buyer has to compensate the seller. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in the end, option premium is paying for that. Are you with me? If you want it in words, option premium is a kind of cumulative hedging cost. Cumulative hedging costs. Okay, now I will talk more about this in the coming week or two. Okay, but just remember that for now. In the end, the option premium is a kind of cumulative hedging cost. What do I mean by cumulative hedging cost? Look, if this is the option payoff, and then I know that if I sold an option, I'm always going to be losing this gap or here. So either way you look at it, I'm losing if I sell the option. And like I said, this is called gamma revenue. So of course I want to be compensated. Otherwise, I'm not going into this. I want you to compensate me up front. And like Ziheng, what he said, that's why there is a cost to this. There's no free lunch, okay? There's no free lunch. Okay? Is everyone okay with that? Don't worry if you're not, because I will go through it again more carefully. Yes. Yeah. I do. I mean, this price isn't really, I do. Yeah. You are the buyer or the seller? Hmm. I see what you're saying. It's not so straightforward to answer this because it involves the interaction of all the other Greeks. So you're wondering, should you be compensated for? Okay, if you are a trader, in fact, to answer your question, it goes way back to the binomial model. If you remember, you have a binomial. In fact, everything can be traced back to that one. So you long a call, you are short a put. Oh, sorry, you're short some stocks. So this actually is a portfolio with a capital P. Now, this portfolio, as you remember, it would have a guaranteed outcome, whether it goes up or down. Okay, now that is the binomial. So here you are not compensated for anything except the risk-free rate of your original portfolio. If you trade this, there are a number of things that are happening, but I'm talking about purely the premium. This $5.55 there. Okay, this $5.55 is to compensate you for providing a service where every time the price moves, it's going to put you at a disadvantage. So it's just adding up all these bits and pieces over time. That's what you are compensated for. Now, maybe you are thinking, what if interest rate changes? And what if volatility change? Maybe you are thinking of that, okay? Now, if these things change, the price will change. Whoops. And in fact, your option may look different. That is how you're compensated for that. So let's say the volatility changes. So before, the volatility was 25%, and now suddenly it is 30%. Your curve will change, exactly. So I am talking about this compensation, holding everything else constant. And I'm telling you that over time, what you are getting paid for is $5.55 here. Over the next 90 days, because it's a 90-day option, you are getting paid for the cumulative hedging costs of needing to hedge and to provide that service. Are you with me? Okay. I'm sorry if this doesn't strike you. Well, maybe you haven't come across it like this before. No one has talked to you like this before, but I am not really deviating from classical option theory, okay? But I'm just presenting it to you more from a practical or trading perspective. Now I do want to, so we have 10 minutes. So let me just impress upon you a number of charts here that I want to share. Now, these are actually not so different from what I showed you earlier. So you've got gamma and delta and theta, and this is how, now on the x-axis, these are the spot prices. So this is actually with a strike of 50, not 100, okay? So with a strike of 50, you can see that delta is approximately 50 when it's near the money. And like I said, it changes very fast. It changes very fast when it's near the money, and it changes even faster for short maturity compared to long maturities. And this is just a static photographic capture of, essentially, if you take a photo here, you take a photo here, and you take a photo here, you are going to get those three lines. Are you with me? Yeah? Okay. So just remember it evolves. See, yeah. Now gamma does something similar. So here is, again, you have the gamma behavior of an option when the underlying price can change from 20 to 80. The strike is 50. The strike is 50, okay? And then, although the curves are both of them like mountains, the shapes are very different. And for the long maturity, although the maximum is also somewhere near the strike, so it's somewhere near the money, for short maturity options, gamma is a lot higher. And again, just as a reminder, this is a photographic capture of when I start changing. So for long maturity, notice the y-axis, the scale is changing, okay? So for very, very short maturity, it just goes through the roof, Okay, so the y-axis is the gamma, and so gamma gets, the peak gets lower and lower when the maturity increases. This is another way of saying that even for options that are near the money, okay, so gamma is decreasing for longer maturities, which is exactly what this is saying over here. Because the red one is for longer maturity, and the short one is for, the blue one is for shorter maturity. So if you go even shorter, if you go one more, it would kind of look like this. I can't draw like this. Hold on. It would look like this. Are you with me? Until you get a diagram that looks like this. Okay? Now theta is an interesting one. First of all, what do you notice about theta that makes it different from the other two Greeks? How is it different? It's upside down, right? Theta is always a negative value. Theta is the change in price per unit time. Theta is, well, you don't have to look far. Just go to any option pricer and you can see that. Do you see the theta values? Minus 0.034 and minus 0.021. So remember that theta, when it is properly quoted, should always be negative. Okay? You all understand why, right? It's time decay. So if nothing changes from one day to the next, your option has to lose value. And now, let's look at the call. So the call price is now 5.558, and theta is minus 0.034. So if nothing changes except time, so I change 90 to 89, I think the price should, okay, what do you think the call price will be now? Anyone wants to make a guess? I changed nothing except the time. And when the days to expiration was 90, the call price is 5.558. And if theta is minus 0.034, if I hit calculate now, what is the price going to be? $5.524, perhaps. Okay, it may not be exact, but it'll be very close. 5.5. Okay. I know why. Because okay, I will show you in the future a more consistent example. This theta here is quoted in terms of trading days, but this one is in terms of calendar days. Okay, but my point to you is, so when you look at theta, so first of all, please remember it is always a negative number. And then when you are changing the time and nothing else, so the theoretical price will keep going down by this amount. Okay. But then back to this graph here, and here is when things get quite interesting. So again, you have a comparison of long maturity theta versus short maturity theta. So here are two options where the strike is 50, but one of them has longer time to run, and then the other is a lot shorter. Now, which one has a bigger, I shouldn't say bigger is misleading, but which one will lose its value faster, do you think? The long maturity or the short maturity option? The short maturity option, okay? One thing that you must keep in mind, okay, and I will mention that here, is your price here for a 90-day option. Now, listen to this carefully, okay? So for a 90-day option, your price is 541, and your theta is 0.034, all right? Now, if you divide this price of $5.40 by 90 days, you're not going to get this value here. You are not, okay? Because theta, that's not theta, by the way, okay? You don't just take an option price and divide by the number of days and say, okay, that's your theta. It's not like a coupon or accrued interest, okay? So theta is nonlinear, and every day it changes, and in fact, it actually gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So that is to say, if you buy an option today and it costs you $5.40, the day after you're going to lose a little bit, and the day after you're going to lose a little bit, but every day that passes, you lose more than the day before. So the time decay will pick up speed, in other words, okay? Now, if you don't believe me, so the theta now is 0.034, and there are 90 days to run. And if I put that at 80, look, watch what happens to the theta, okay? So it is now minus 0.034, minus 0.036. I'm going to change it now to 50 days, minus 0.044, 40 days. So every day is losing 4 cents. Changing a little bit, 30 days, you're going to see some whopping big changes, okay? Now, every day losing 5 cents, 20 days. Every day losing 6.5 cents, 10 days. Now, every day losing 9 cents. How about 5 days? Now, every day losing 12.5 cents. 3 days. 16 cents. And 1 day. 27 cents. Okay? So the speed at which the air is coming out of the balloon will increase when you are close to maturity, and you actually can see that here as well. If you look at the call theta and you change it, this is not symmetric, by the way, okay? And as time to maturity increases, in fact, it becomes disjointed. It's gone all the way down to level minus 18, okay? Notice the scale also is changing on the y-axis. So theta is a lot smaller when your option has a lot of time to run, but theta will pick up speed as your option gets closer to maturity. Okay, is everyone okay with that? I guess what we have done is, apart from just defining what delta and gamma and theta are, apart from just defining, I'm showing you that their actual behavior with regard to the stock price changing, and also with regard to different points, whether they are far away from the maturity date or whether they are very close to maturity date. Okay? Is everyone okay with that? Yeah? So next time, what I would like to do is to share with you the idea of averaging delta, which is a very handy and very useful concept. And then we're trying to connect everything together. Okay. Do you have any questions you want to ask me? Anyone? Feel free. You have a question? Go ahead. Yeah. Do you guys have to go anywhere? If you need to go, don't worry about me. But if they have questions and you want to hear the answers, you're welcome to stay. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. The previous slide. You mean this one? Oh, the slides. Yeah? Which one? You want me, sorry, this one. The straight line should go the other way. That's what you mean. Hmm. Let me see if I'm hearing your question correctly. So what you are saying is, if this is your option, and right now you are here, and you hedged it like this, so this is the stock price, S1, and now it moves to here, so you are here, and you should actually re-hedge or rebalance with a new delta. Is that what you're saying? I understand what you're saying. You are a step ahead of me. First of all, you're right, what you just said, okay? But that relates to another, it relates to the concept of rebalancing delta, which we will come to maybe next time, okay? But the reason this gamma revenue is valid as a concept is that if you are long the call and you have a hedge here, and this is all you have done, and then the price now moves from S1 to S2, and you have done nothing else, you just sit there and watch. This really is your profit from the option. So this is delta, this is the change in price for C, and this is the loss that you have on your hedge. So the gamma revenue refers to a static result. If you have done your hedge and you just sit there and you just watch and you see what happens, this is what happens. Okay. Now, what you are saying is, once you are here, you have to re-hedge. Is that what you are saying? I completely agree with that. I do. Okay. But that is taking that beyond the discussion here. Okay. But before you even do that step, you will be the happy receiver of the gamma revenue. And then you go and do your re-hedge. Yeah. Have I answered your question? Sure? Yeah. Somebody else wanted to ask something. Yeah, sure. Page 13.
Long the price value responding to sell price also change.
Sorry, which graph are you referring to? Gamma, yeah. Sorry, go on. Yeah. When I am changing what? Mm-hmm. Hmm. No, they're not. I think I know what you're saying. Yeah. Do you all understand his observation? He is saying that, so here, it looks like the peak is occurring somewhere there, but for the short maturity, the peak is occurring somewhere here. Why is that? That is his question, okay? If you guys don't know the answer, do you at least understand the question? Yeah. So he's saying, why aren't the peaks the same? And in fact, why aren't the peaks exactly at the strike price? Okay. Now, they don't have to be. The reason, you all understand the question? It's a great question. Okay. The reason the peak is changing is that your forward price is changing. What do I mean your forward price is changing? If your spot price is 100, all right, and the interest rates are 5%, your 1 year forward price is 105. But your 6 month forward price is what? 102.5. And then your 3 month forward price is 101.25. So as your forward is changing, your peak gamma value also will change. Okay, that is why when I'm moving the maturity, the peak is appearing at different places. But because your strike hasn't changed, your strike remains constant. Are you with me? Great question. Feel free to ask. You understand? You know, option trading and option pricing is one of the things that really fascinates me, is that I mean, look, if you are trading stocks, pure stocks, it just goes up and down, long, short, in, out, buy, sell, yours, mine. It's linear, okay? Now, if you are trading bonds, it's a bit better. You're trading bonds, here's a bond price with regard to yield, so it goes sort of like this. So it's a curve. So already it makes fixed income, for me, a more challenging asset class, but still, it is kind of symmetric. But what really fascinates me about trading options is that it's not a straight line. It is not even symmetric, as you can see, right? So this is the delta of a call when the time to maturity is changing. And you can see that nowhere is it actually, symmetric. Not really. And you get that quite often in the option world, which you don't really do in stocks and bonds. Okay, is everyone okay with that? If you are, I'm going to let you go, and there will be an audio-visual version of this, which I will produce and put online, just for your entertainment. Okay, but if you have no more questions, I'm going to stop this and I'll let you go. Okay, so I won't take attendance today, in case there are some people who can't make it. All right. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day.